Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Solutions to Wellness podcast brought to you by Iron Alliance. Iron Alliance is a company that focuses on leadership development and team building in any organization, whether that may be a corporation, youth group, or sports teams. Iron Alliance organized and has put together Wisconsin's largest wellness expo. That is the Solutions to Wellness Expo. The mission of that expo is to get all businesses focused on wellness with a holistic approach to come together, get in the community, and share their expertise. Also get the community involved and aware of all the businesses out there that provide those great services. With that, we actually have a guest today, and we're excited to have her on, and we'll have Zach introduce who she is and what her business and background are.
Awesome. So we're fired up today. We have an amazing guest on the show. She is 21 years old and has already been in business for 3 years. So she jumped into entrepreneurship at a very young age of 18. I don't want to steal her thunder. She's got a really good story on kind of her background and why she chose starting her own business. Her company is called Wellness 360. She's got an amazing vision. So we're very excited to have you, Miss Sydney Hummel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I want you to tell us about your background. So you had some health issues from 12 to 16 years old. Tell us about those health issues, kind of how they brought you to Wellness 360.
Yeah, so I, from about 12 to 16, I just had these ungodly bad stomach issues. Doctors could never really figure out what was wrong. I was constantly in the ER. I was down at Children's Hospital doing labs and testings and things like that, and they never really knew where it started from. I took out gluten. I took out dairy. I would do all of these things to try and fix it, and there was really never any solution for it. And then when I was 16, I was introduced to a supplement line that I now carry in Wellness 360 that I was given a couple of different products to try that had helped other clients in the past with digestive health, and it complete 180 on my life. Within probably a week, I would say I noticed a difference with it. And so that was really where I had a love and appreciation when it came to natural wellness and realizing that you don't just have to go to a doctor and to have them try and figure out what's wrong with you. Like, there are other alternatives because a lot of doctors aren't trained when it comes to natural alternatives, and it's just not something they really go through in their schooling. So I, from then, really started to try and educate myself when it came to natural wellness, talk with professionals in the community that were passionate when it came to supplementation and diet and things like that, rather than just take a prescription for it. So that was really where I started my journey with the internal wellness. And then at that time, like I said, I was only 16. So as I grew up, I started to have a huge love and appreciation when it came to cosmetics and skincare and just the confidence that it could give people. And I knew that that was something, too, that I was really passionate about, and I really wanted to build something on with it. So
That's interesting because at that age, that's not a main interest of most in that, especially that 18 to 21 range. So did you have any like-minded individuals or mentors along that process, or anyone that really kept you interested in continuing that growth that you share with your health and wellness?
I definitely did. So growing up, both my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad owned a comic book store when I was a kid. My mom owned a shaved ice shack that I managed when I was 13 years old. So I always had a love for it, but I love them, but there was definitely a lot of flaws in the way that they ran their business. But so I was able to see that, and I was able to kind of piggyback off of it and take the good things they did, because there were good things about it, the good things they did and the bad things, and kind of expand on it. But then my boyfriend through high school, actually, his mom is an entrepreneur, and she's been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years, and she actually works with the supplement lines. And so she was the one who really helped me to understand leverage in entrepreneurship, and she was a huge advocate for holistic wellness. And so she was definitely my driving force starting out in just getting a better understanding of all of those things and really pursuing it to a higher degree.
What was, when you were in the hospital during that 12 to 16 years old, did they, obviously the supplements help things in the holistic approach with diet and whatnot, but I mean, what were you eating, and what was ultimately the issue?
So we still don't really know. I'm sensitive to gluten, but so is most of the population. Most of the population, to some degree, is pretty sensitive to gluten and dairy because your body just struggles to break it down like it should. You typically just don't have the enzymes that you need in your stomach to be able to break it down correctly. So we knew I was sensitive to it, but even when I tried to completely take it out, it was still an ongoing issue. So they, to this day, have never figured it out. When I would have the severe stomach issues, they would give me prescription painkillers and say, we're really sorry, this is all we can do, which long-term is going to hurt your stomach more. Long-term, they weren't really doing anything for my benefit, but it was a short-term thing that they thought, well, at least it'll get her out of here and in less pain, so we'll just send her home with some, like, Vicodin and hope for the best.
So since then, I'm guessing you've made quite a bit of different dietary changes and nutrition changes. What are some of the things that you've found beneficial? And speaking on a little bit of the fad diets and things like that, for people out there curious as to maybe they have the same issues and are extremely gluten allergenic, what are some things that you like to follow and research?
So big things for me that I always highly recommend to pretty much every client is a really powerful probiotic. They just make such a big difference in your gut health, and your gut health is really your second brain. Everything is linked to your gut. So getting control of that gut health is key. So really high quality probiotic, you're going to want something that has live back. So it's not going to die off based on the temperature, because a lot of times if you just go into like a Walgreens and get a probiotic off the shelf that needs to be stored in cool temperature, chances are in the time of it coming in that shipment, it wasn't at the right temperature. So that bacteria already died. So being aware of that, making sure that it has a high amount of CFUs per serving. So that's probably like my biggest gut health recommendation. And then for people who struggle, so like I said, gluten is a really hard thing to break down. So having like a digestive enzyme so that you're able to get in there and correctly break down the foods that you're digesting, because that's going to make a huge difference as well for it and like your stomach comfort. So even people who just like when you finish eating, like it doesn't necessarily hurt, but you're just super full and uncomfortable, an enzyme will help with that a lot. It helps with bloating and it helps to break down the foods.
Is there any specific foods that do have those? And then is there specific foods that will actually really hinder those effects that those probiotics and the digestive enzymes give you?
Enzymes is definitely something you have to take in a supplement form. And just gluten, seriously, gluten is like everybody's biggest issue on this planet. It's so hard for your body, and specifically gluten in the United States. There's a lot of people who cannot eat gluten in the United States that can go to Europe and have bread all day long and have no issue, but just with how it's formulated in the United States, it's really, really hard for our bodies to digest. So like I've had several clients come to me and say like, oh, I traveled to Europe and they could eat bread just fine, but they cannot tolerate absolutely whatsoever in the United States because it's just how it's formulated. And there is a lot less regulation when it comes to the United States on like food products and quality. Like there's a lot of things that, like I think even mac and cheese, like there's certain ingredients put in it in the United States that aren't allowed in any other country in their food. So it's just harder for our bodies here.
Yeah, that's very true. There's a lot of countries that have actual, their version of the FDA has actual much more strict regulations. Like high fructose corn syrup is the number one thing that's pretty well only legal to put in food in America. Mm-hmm. So that's a very good point you bring up. Speaking on traveling, you had some interesting topics here in your bio. Instead of going to college, I'd like to expand a little bit on your journey with, the path you chose.
Yeah, so I was set to go. I had my roommate picked out. I had my classes picked out. I had like the best freshman class schedule on this planet for UW Eau Claire, and I was going to be going for social work, which would have been a 6-year degree. And I just started to realize it was like 3 weeks before I was supposed to move in, and I just realized I was going to be put in the same cycle that everybody is in, where you have all of this college debt, because college was completely on me financially. So I would have had all this college debt, and I would have been working at a career where I can only ever make $60K, $70K a year. I would have been capped and trying to pay off this debt and then supporting a family and not having really any time for myself. And I just realized that was not something I could see myself doing and actually living my life to the degree I wanted it. And I actually took a sheet of paper and I wrote down all of the goals. And this is something I advise for everybody all the time when I start working with anybody. Write down everything you want to achieve in your life, like all of these things, like your hopes, your dreams, things you want to give back to people, cars you want, houses you want, like anything that it may be, trips you want to take, and then look at, okay, what am I doing right now to get me there? And if your current plan isn't going to get you there, then you need to rethink and you need to reevaluate and do something different for it. So that's what I did. And then I realized being a social worker, I was going to go in CPS and I would have like killed a parent. So it would have been really bad. And so like I just knew that was not going to be for me. So I actually just bought a plane ticket for the day I was supposed to move into college because I lived for the dramatics at 18. Bought a plane ticket for the day I was supposed to move into college, and I went to Thailand, and I backpacked around for 5 weeks. No plan at all. The only night that was pre-planned was the first night we flew in because it was like 3 a.m. That was the only hotel we pre-booked. Everything else we just did like whenever we felt like it. And so I came home, and then at that time I thought like, oh, maybe like I'll go to like the tech or something like that and just get some sort of degree. And then I just realized that wasn't for me, and just entrepreneurship was definitely the route that I wanted to go with it. And I'm a huge advocate for self-learning and knowledge and things like that. So I do think like, and I probably still at some point will like come to the tech and just take a couple classes that I just think have really great information in them. But I just, for myself personally, I just knew that a degree wasn't necessarily what was going to give me everything that I wanted to achieve.
That's amazing. That's awesome. You just packed up, went to Thailand. So when you went to Thailand, was there anything there that influenced like your career now or your business that you started now? Was there anything you ate? Was there just some self-discovery that like, hey, I really like wellness?
I think that it gave me like a really big appreciation just for like the flexibility of like, at that time, because I was 18 and I had no real responsibilities. I had a waitressing job. That was about it. And so I had that flexibility, and I just realized if I go back and I go to school, I'm not going to have that flexibility. Like, I can't just pick up and go and do this because I want to. And realistically, for the majority of my life, like, I'm not going to be able to do that until I, retire at 60 years old. And then I'm going to be how old? And statistically, it's like 65% of the population at 65 is dead broke or still working, something like that. And so I was like, I'm going to now have all the time in the world and have no money or be too sick to do it because I've worked myself to the bone my entire life. And so I think just like going there and having that experience, and I loved it so much, and I loved the people in Thailand are just amazing. Like if I could just take like my mom and like move there, I would. Like I just need like my mom, my brother, and like move there, I would. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. But so it just gave me like an appreciation for like there's so much to the world other than just like working a job for somebody else's financial success, and you're just sitting there and working and working and working. And I just knew like there was no way I was going to be able to come home and do that.
That's very interesting that you mentioned that, and especially the point of felt that you had that flexibility at 18, and I would imagine you still feel like in ways because you're not stuck in that 9 to 5. You know, yes, entrepreneurship is a very tasking thing each day, but to the people that are 26, 36, 46, you know, where does that mentality of, or what's that driving factor of we don't have that flexibility anymore? Is there anything that you found with your clients and stuff like that they have these perceived constraints and they don't have that flexibility that you mentioned at 18?
Yeah, I think a lot, and I do. Like I am very fortunate for the most part. I will say having a physical location now, it's definitely like a whole new beast to deal with. But even still now, like I can pretty much, there was a trip I wanted to, my boyfriend was like leaving, and I was like, I'm sad, I don't want you to go. And I literally just packed my bag in 30 minutes and went with him and was gone for a week. And I have awesome clients, and I just texted them. I said, like, hey, like, I can do, like, online consults. We can talk on the phone, and they were all amazing about it. But I talk to a lot of people who are, like, late 20s, 30s, 40s, and they'll talk about, like, I can't just do that, and I have no time. I come home, and I'm exhausted, and I take care of the kids, and I have this, and I have that. And I'm just a firm believer in, like, if there's a will, there's a way, and if you want something bad enough, you're gonna make it work to do it. And obviously, like, wellness also includes getting a healthy amount of sleep, but sometimes like you have to stay up a little bit later and get up a little bit earlier to achieve the things that you want to achieve and get done the stuff that you want to get done. And I actually, I saw just some article online, and it was about just like the wealthiest people in the world and like what time they all wake up at. And so then in my head instantly, I was like, okay, well, I need to start doing that. So now I'm up every day at 4:30 and I go to the gym, and that's when I start my day versus in the past it was 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. But I made that decision of like, I'll find more time in my day to do it and to get something done. So I always encourage people, like, if you feel that way, start studying leverage and understanding leverage more, because that's going to make a huge difference. And like Robert Kiyosaki is an incredible businessman, an incredible author. He has the book Rich Dad Poor Dad and then Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. And those are two really huge things if you want to become financially literate and understand a little better of how to do those right things to give yourself that freedom. That's huge.
So tell us a little bit about Wellness 360. You're diving into it right now. Let's backtrack to the beginning of the business and kind of the process to where you are now 3 years later.
Yeah. So when it started, actually, I was just an owner of like an internet franchise. So I had access to several lines of incredible, high quality, science-based products that I loved, that I recommended for my clients. And then from there, it really grew into, I knew I wanted to create my own brand and my own thing. Like I didn't want to just own like essentially like a Jimmy John's, but online and with, products. And so that's when I really started cultivating and creating Wellness 360. And I knew that it's so important to me to be client focused and client based. And I just want to always give my clients the absolute best. And I want them to be able to walk in and know everything I say. I'm going to be very, very straightforward. I'm going to be very blunt. I'm only going to tell you what I think is right for you and what's going to benefit you. Because I think a lot of times clients go in places and they don't even know like if they're actually just being sold something because that person wants to make a sale, or if they're being sold it because that person actually cares about them and their wellness. So I do wellness consults, which I love. I'll have clients who just come in and say, I have joint issues, I have digestive issues, I have mental health issues, help me. But then I'll have other clients who just come in and say, like, I just want to be well. Tell me what I need to do. And we walk through it, and we just kind of walk through what their daily habits are like. What are they eating? What is their activity level like? What issues do they feel like they have? And then we kind of spitball off of those, and then we go from there. And everybody and every consult I have is different, because it really just does depend on that person and what I feel like they need and what they're really asking for. And a lot of times people come in and by the end of the conversation, it starts at one place and it ends complete 180 from where we thought it was going to. Like I also do skincare and cosmetic consults. So I figure out, okay, what are these skin issues you have, which usually are internal issues anyway, so it ends up being an internal consult. Or like, what products are you using? And then we can talk about, okay, how are those long-term going to affect your skin? Are they actually beneficial for your skin, as much as at least cosmetics can be? Or are they aging your skin and causing red spots and causing extra oil and things like that? And we talk on that. And then like financial, figure out like, what is your debt load? Where are your spending habits at? And let's work on that and fix that, so you at least have a little bit of something coming back into your pocket at the end of every month.
Awesome. So ultimately you do this consult and you have a team of professionals within your network.
Mm-hmm.
We talked before the show, chiropractors, physical therapists, mental health. I think you said you have some contacts, and you just kind of guide them, whether it's you helping them with supplementation, with the skincare,
Mm-hmm.
with the financial side of your business, or you might refer them to other experts in your network.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yep. So my goal with Wellness 360, and something that I'm really going to be working on over these next couple of months, is actually bringing in those professionals under the brand of Wellness 360. So when you walk in, you can go see your chiropractor, you can go see a massage therapist, your esthetician, your personal trainer. And so that is something that I'm reaching for right now. But in the meantime, I do have an incredible network of people that I absolutely love and respect, and I know that they are going to give their clients the same amount of care that I give. So I have usually clients will come in, and then I end up figuring out, like, you need a chiropractic adjustment. And there's an awesome chiropractor in Appleton, Michaela Weister, who she just does a great job, an awesome approach. I always joke with her because she's like really tiny and skinny. You guys have seen her. She's really little. And so when I went in, I was like going to a chiropractor, this like big muscly dude. And I was like, Michaela, I thought you were going to be the world's worst chiropractor. Like, I thought there was no way. She's awesome. I love her to death. And so I refer out a lot to her. There's another one in De Pere that's really great. And then also, personal trainers, mental health therapists, and things like that. So I can anything I can't help with, I try and find somebody that I trust and that I know will do right by my client and that they can help with. So,
is there any consistency? You said every client kind of varies and a lot of them are unique, but is there any consistencies that you see, like maybe nutrition that it always goes back to, or some sort of supplement or anything like that?
It always, like 99.9% of the time, it starts with gut health. A lot of issues center around the gut, because it is just everything is connected to your gut. So, and because of the lack of regulation when it comes to like food in America and things like that, it just makes it that much worse for people. So that's more often than not, that's where I like to start with people. Is I like to start with getting their gut health under control. Whether that be if they're willing to do like a cleanse, like a 7-day cleanse. I love doing a 7-day cleanse and just really like starting from square one with them. Otherwise, if they're just like, and I do gauge it on, like, if I know a client, there's no way they're going to successfully do a cleanse and it's a waste of money for them to do a cleanse, I'm not going to have them do a cleanse, because it just doesn't make sense. And there's other things that we can do for them with probiotics and enzymes and a good aloe to help get them results as well.
So it sounds like you are a big advocate of like supplementation, getting the probiotics, like you mentioned, the gut health right through supplementation.
Yep.
Like how do you implement any nutrition stuff with that too? Or have you found supplementation to work and they can keep their same exact diet?
The issue is, and so like it's the same thing like when it comes to like working out. Like you can't outwork a bad diet. And so I do try and like heavily advise that with my clients and like give suggestions on, types of foods to be eating, times of days you should be eating, amount of calories you should be eating, macros, things like that. But the issue is, supplementation is kind of a 50-50 thing in the wellness industry. Some people are like, you don't need to supplement at all. Other people are strongly advocate for it. I do believe that, yes, you can get most of the things you can get with a supplement within your diet, but the population, like a regular human being is not going to be able to eat the amount of fish you need to eat to get the correct amount of omegas you need in a day. And they're just not going to eat at that point. So that's why it's important to supplement, to make sure that where you're deficient in your health, you're able to bring it in and just help support yourself as best as possible through supplementation so that you can have the best results and the best wellness possible. And like even especially inflammation, that's a huge thing. Like there's certain things that cause extra inflammation. Like I get inflammation in like my shoulders if I eat too much gluten. I can instantly feel it in my shoulders. Like sauces for some reason with gluten in it, like soy sauces, ruin my shoulders. And so like I do know like if I don't eat those things, it will help with inflammation. But I'll have a lot of clients who come in and they say like they're getting steroid shots and they've had these surgeries for like inflammation in their knees and in their hips. And there's not really anything you can do food-wise that's going to fix that. So that's where I recommend Isotonics has an awesome product called the Joint Support Formula that does great work. Pretty much all of my athletes take it. All the guys that I know in the military take it because it just does such great work for your inflammation and your cartilage in there. And then also another product called bromelain that does great work when it comes to inflammation. So there's just certain things that you really can't necessarily fix through eating. And that's where I say, okay, well, if we're not going to fix it through eating, then we need to supplement because we want you to have obviously the optimal wellness possible.
So it seems like you would suggest first look at your nutrition and that's
I always go through it and I try and figure out, okay, what are you eating on a day-to-day basis? How many calories are you taking in? What kinds of foods are you eating? And then I'll make suggestions on that, but I'll say, okay, so this is what you should be eating, but here are the things that, supplement-wise would really, really benefit you and help you with that. Like protein, for somebody who's trying to put on muscle that's already 220 pounds, it's really hard for them to get the amount of protein they need just straight up through like eating the foods that have high proteins in them. Whereas like if you can just pack a protein bar in for the gym and a protein shake, it just makes it really easy to be able to like get those proteins in. So.
Yeah, I think it's important what you said too. Is like supplements are, sort of an addition to an already quality nutrition.
It's interesting because we meet with people. We had Zach Tooley on, a professional bodybuilder, on the show, and he talked about how he used supplements for his first show, and then he really didn't use any for his second, and he was more successful in the second. And he believes more in nutrition than he does supplements. But he mentioned kind of what you said about the 220-pound guy. Once you get to a certain level, supplements can help.
Yeah, they're just going to help. And that's what I try and advise my clients so much. So like, please still eat right. Like just because you're taking a green supplement doesn't mean you should never have a vegetable again in your life. And that's been my hardest thing, is because I am a very big advocate for a green supplement, because none of my clients ever have told me they're getting 8 servings of greens a day. And so that's where there's so many phytonutrients and benefits to taking a green supplement, because you're not getting the amount that you need in a day if you're not having the 8 servings. But then like my clients will take a greens and they're like, well, I don't eat veggies. I'm like, you still should eat veggies. Like those. So I really try and advocate for that and explain nutrition is still such an important factor in it, and making sure that you're still eating the right things, because you can take all the supplements in the world, but if you have never touched a vegetable or a fruit and you live off of like Taco Bell, like you're still going to have health challenges. So that's something that I really, really try and like express to my clients. But
is there anything as far as supplements, just like, pre-workout or BCAAs or casein protein or whatever, that you wouldn't recommend or would say is on the lower level of necessity as far as supplements? And also, what are some main bad ingredients that people can be cognizant of when they're looking at conditioners, shampoos, and makeup and things like that? Is there anything that you could say like, hey, watch out for these? So
when it comes to like supplement wise, what I don't love, I am not, and again, this is something that's really just based on your opinion. I'm not a huge advocate for pre-workouts because there's just so much caffeine in it, and realistically, like, that's not ideal for your body. And I get the purpose of it, but there's a product that I have that I typically recommend to clients that is just a bunch of like vitamins, minerals, amino acids that are going to naturally boost your energy levels versus like caffeine. And it does have, I think, a small amount of caffeine in it, but nothing that's like unhealthy, like those Bang drinks. If you look at them, like there's so much caffeine in them, and they're just really not ideal for it. BCAAs, so like your body can't make those. So I'm in full support of them because, like I said, like your body can't naturally make those. So there's certain things that your body just can't do that it is really important to supplement for. And that's definitely something that if you're working out, yeah, that's great. If you're not somebody that's huge into working out, you don't really need them necessarily. So I wouldn't supplement with them unless you're somebody who's actively working out on a consistent basis and things like that with it. So it just depends.
Chad and I both agree on the pre-workout. We both took pre-workout when I played football and he was in the Marine Corps. I played Marine. Yeah, when you played Marines. And it's just an unhealthy amount of stimulants in there. It's like you don't need it. But talk about the eyelash extensions and the makeup. So this is super interesting. Fire away, because I'm very uneducated in this, and fill our listeners in on this.
Most people are. So I had a lot of clients. So I was already, I was working with, wellness and cosmetics and skincare. And then I had a lot of clients who would come in and just say, like, I don't have eyelashes anymore. I need them grown back. And it was like a couple years straight of it. And I finally started listening a little better. And I realized that, like, there was a pattern of these people who like needed help growing their eyelashes back were all people who got eyelash extensions. And so I did some research on it, and I found out that in the state of Wisconsin, there is absolutely no regulation when it comes to eyelash extensions. Somebody can literally just go on like YouTube and try and learn from YouTube how to place eyelash extensions, which eyelash extensions are where you take a synthetic hair, so like silk, mink, whatever it may be, and place it on the natural lash to give them longer, fuller, more curled lashes. So it's kind of like waking up with like mascara already on, and your lashes are even bigger and fuller than they typically would be. But there's no regulation on it. So a lot of my clients would go somewhere, and it's like reputable places, like places in like malls and like actual like building stuff. Like there's also people doing it in like college houses, but they would go in, and then once they would get them on, they would like feel pain. It would be like pulling after a couple weeks. And it ended up being what it is. Once I researched it a little more, is because people aren't getting the proper training, when they put a lash extension on, they'll put several natural lashes with that one extension. And because your eyelashes all have different growth rates, it's pulling at them. So it's going to actually harm it at the root, and it's going to totally rip it out because it's all trying to grow with that extension, because your extensions are supposed to pop off naturally when your lashes fall off. So your lashes, typically natural lashes, fall off every like 3.5 weeks or so. And so it was really badly damaging like a lot of people's lashes. So that's when I decided, okay, like I have so many people coming in, this is such a big issue. And so I went to Minnesota and I got trained in lash extensions so I could do them safely for my clients. And I now offer that. So I'm able to apply them and make sure that we're not causing damage to the natural lash. And that's something that I talk so extensively on with my clients is I'm always, every time they come in for a fill, I'm going to double check them and make sure that they're still as healthy as they should be. And if they're not, we're going to talk about, okay, what's going on? Like, what are the issues? Sometimes, like, I've had a client who literally should just sit there and pick at it. I'm like, okay, like, you're damaging your natural lash by doing that too. And then I have a great serum that I usually recommend that helps really strengthen and keep them strong and stuff. Because my goal is like, yeah, I have pretty long lashes, but if it's harming your natural lash, that's a no-go, because long-term it's really hard to repair them. So I try really hard to advocate for like doing it in, again, a healthy, safe way. And because like it's a constant cycle of like just things are really underregulated. And so this is just another one of those things that is really underregulated. And so people are getting like, they don't know, like, which I don't blame them for not knowing. You go into a business, you're going to assume this person is trained and certified to offer this service, but the reality is they don't have to be. So a lot of them aren't.
Well, Zach, I'm sure you're as glad as I am that we don't have to get eyelash extensions. But the point of that being too, we spoke a little bit on it, just the little things that we don't think of or take for granted in our health and our life and relationships, really business, anything. That's just another avenue for you to share your wealth of knowledge with people and show, hey, we got to think about these little things too, like ripping your eyelashes out, or let's get the correct certified way to do it so you're not injuring yourself. And that's great.
So you're telling me that I lose one eyelash per 3 weeks, roughly?
You have like a cycle, so they're all at different like growth rates. So like if you actually were to have somebody like take a picture, like you can see all of yours are different sizes because they're all at different growth rates. So like you lose like several. Like so when I do somebody's lashes, so like somebody will come in for a full set, and then typically they come in every 3 to 3.5 weeks for a fill. And a fill, like I'm typically putting on like 40% new lashes because that's how many lashes fall out every like 3.5 weeks. So like you lose a lot of them, but you just don't know it because they're so like little, and like a lot of times you'll lose them in your sleep, like when your face is like brushing your pillow and things like that. Yeah.
So going back to the products for your body and everything, I'm not a big fan of the if it smells more, for the body wash, I'm gonna buy it kind of thing. Yep. So what are some things that we can be conscious of as far as buying our body beauty products for men and women? I mean, my concern is what's in the shampoo that's really going to make me bald or gray hair or something. It's not natural.
A big thing is fragrance is a huge thing. Like fragrance long term is going to dry out your body. It's going to dry out your hair. So trying to avoid, like, I get it. It's really nice to have things that are like super fragrancy and smell really nice. Like even deodorants are like packed with like aluminum and carcinogens and things like that, but everybody wants like the Old Spice one that smells super good. But so trying to avoid fragrance is like the biggest thing I can advocate, especially for somebody who has sensitive skin. Typically fragrance is going to be something that triggers it, and like you don't even realize that like you have extra redness because of like the skincare or shampoo or conditioner or body wash that you're using, until you stop using it because you've done it your whole life. Like you've always used things with fragrance in it. Also, like I kind of advocate like the less ingredients, the better. That's a huge thing. And there are several websites that you can go on to that you can actually plug in. Of course, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but you can plug in, and if you Google it, you can probably find them, but you can plug in ingredients and it'll tell you when it comes to skincare, like, does this promote oiliness, acne, dryness, whatever it is, and it'll tell you, is it an irritant? And it can actually break that all down for you. And same with shampoos and conditioners and body washes. Artificial like dyes are a big one too. You don't really want any products that have like are artificially colored because it's just an unnecessary thing. Kids that are on the spectrum respond really poorly to like red dyes. It is like especially like food wise, like red and yellow dyes. It just triggers something typically with kids on the spectrum. So a lot of times when I work with parents that have kiddos on the spectrum, like that's the first thing is like in your diet, cut out red and yellow dyes. And usually just even doing that, you'll notice a decrease in just like their tantrums and, from one extreme to the next kind of thing. And it typically helps mellow them out a little bit. But that also goes with your products. And I think a lot of people just don't realize like you're absorbing so much of what you put on. So like if you're absorbing things that have a lot of fragrance and have a lot of dyes in it, that's going to have a counter effect. That's not ideal.
Yeah, on the topic of the fragrance, I'll be the advocate for saying that, guys, the more body spray you use, the less people like you. So, yeah, get away from those. You spoke a little bit on your network of professionals. Mm-hmm. So, I guess tell us a little bit of how you began that network and seeking out those individuals that you realized, hey, these people would be beneficial to both of us to be a part of our network.
Yeah, so I love networking groups and networking organizations. I think those are such a fantastic thing in the community, and there's a lot of really, really great ones. HBBA is a big one in this area, and they have locations like all over, like Neenah, Appleton, Green Bay. And once you're a member of one, you can actually pop into any of them. So that's a really great opportunity. I always keep my ears open for like luncheons and things like that because it just gives you a chance to meet so many different professionals. I'm 21. I really like social media. But I'm also always just keeping myself aware when I'm on social media. Like I'm not just trying to mindlessly scroll all the time. I'll try and like be aware of the posts that I'm seeing. And like when I see somebody on my friends list tag a chiropractor or a personal trainer or something in it, I like to keep that in mind and like keep a little note of it so then I can kind of study them a little more, understand them a little more, and see like, okay, is this somebody that I would want to refer my clients out to with it? And just like really random. I'm just very good now, and it's definitely an acquired thing. Like, it takes a little time to learn, just to keep your ears open when you hear about somebody like talking about how they loved this experience with this professional or this professional. And so I just try really hard to always listen to those things. And when I hear something, I'm not afraid anymore to ask, like, oh, who is that? Like, do you have their business card? What is their social media? Can I look them up and keep that in mind? So then I can just, my biggest thing is, like, if I can't help my clients with something, I want to be able to refer them to somebody that I can trust, that I know can. So I'm just constantly looking for people to be able to refer out to, so that I can make sure that if my client comes to me, they're going to leave not having questions of, like, well, where do I go? What am I supposed to do? I can just send them out to somebody that's trusted and they know that they can rely on for it.
In the world of social media, it's such a great tool to use for business, but it can be such a hindrance when you look at the importance and value of getting in front of people, like you mentioned at these networker things. And have you seen that? I mean, we've seen that a lot in our business and similar networking things, of just communicating with people in person, getting to know them, especially clients. I'm sure you see it with your clients all the time. It's difficult to create a rapport and a trust in someone when you can't really see face to face with them. So yeah, I think that holds a lot of value for anyone really trying to just build a network or grow a business or anything.
I think that's a really big thing. And I think, like, especially like the younger population right now, like, really struggles with that. Like, I used to be terrified of public speaking, absolutely hated it. I talk a mile a minute to begin with. And when you have me, I remember the first time I ever spoke, I had 18 minutes and I spoke in 7 and said everything I was supposed to say in 18 in 7 minutes, because I talked so fast because I was so nervous. But then over time, like, I knew it was something that I needed to do that was going to help me develop myself as a person, as a business owner, and help expand myself. So I just, like, kept making a point to get better and keep doing it. And I see so many people now that they will never, like, they refuse to public speak. They hate picking up the phone to make a phone call to somebody. It's all through social media, all through message. And there is definitely a power and a strength to that. And it's something that we're so fortunate right now to have access to. But not forgetting, it is super important to make those in-person connections. Like, I always prefer, even if I can have an entire meeting with somebody via message, like, we can just send the questions back and forth. I love having that phone call or the video message, or I prefer the in-person, so I can actually get to know them and make that connection with them, so that I can best help them and they can trust me and they can know me as best possible. And I think that's definitely something people, like, lately don't love to do, but I think it's such an important thing when it comes to building your business and building your network. Absolutely.
So you went to, you said eyelash, is it eyelash school?
It's like, it's just like extensions. There's different trainings you can go to. I went to a 2-day one. They're typically about 2 days. And then I have another one I'll be going to in the next couple of months. That's another 2-day one for it. And then I'm on a couple different forums with, like, just hundreds of different professionals on it. That all do extensions and just kind of talk about the best products, the most natural products, the safest ones, the safest way to do them, and different things like that too. But yeah, so you actually have to, like, seek them out. But I liked my training. I went to a lot. There's a lot of different ones, but I liked mine a lot.
Did you get any other formal training for any of this?
No, I am for, like, Wellness 360 as a whole, kind of.
Right.
No, I like seminars, and I like podcasts and YouTube videos and things like that, and reading. And so it's been a lot of that and a lot of self-learning. And, like, anytime I hear about, like, a wellness talk going on, or a networking event where it's like, there's some awesome ones that 920 Wellness Studio will host, where it's just all professionals in the room talking about, like there was one that I absolutely loved, and it was just a lot of people in there that are therapists and counselors and just passionate about mental health, all in a room just talking and collaborating and saying, this is what I'm seeing in the industry. This is what I've seen that helps. And so that's just, I kind of just always, like, I love to just sit there and, like, just sit in the back and just take it all in and just learn from it. So that's been a really big thing for me, is I'm constantly trying to, like, learn from people that I already see have success and are doing it really well. And then I can just take tidbits from them and say, okay, how can I implement this to do best for my clients and myself?
So I didn't want to mention it before, we got into the details of you not having any formal education, because I want it, like, you have so much knowledge. If someone just listened to this podcast without knowing you were 21 years old, no education, they would think, wow, she's got, a master's in, something and related to health and wellness. Yeah. So, I mean, definitely appreciate that about you, the research, the self-education you've done. Talk about how you did that, because so many people think that you need to go to a 4-year school to learn.
Yeah.
Talk about how you educated yourself to learn all this, not all this information.
I remember when I was like finishing up my senior year of high school, and I remember feeling like so pressured, like I had to pick a, because I still hadn't, like towards the end of my senior year, like I still hadn't picked my college. I think I only applied to 2 or 3 of them, but I just felt so pressured, like I had to do it, and it was the only way I was going to be successful. And I think that's what so many people feel like. And so like I just had to stand back and think, okay, for myself, is this really, I don't learn the best in a classroom environment. I learn through hands-on. I learn through, like, I can't be talked at for hours and hours, like in a lecture. That's just not, some people, like, that is where they flourish. That is where they excel. For me, it's just not, like, and so I just knew that that wasn't going to be it for me. So I just started to really make a point. I'm a big advocate for find somebody who's doing something really well and take their tips and take their advice and implement it yourself, because clearly they've done something to be as successful as they are. And so I always try and do that. So it started with, I've always liked to read, so that made my life a little bit easier when it came to like reading other people. You have to kind of like force them to read a little bit. But so it started with just like finding good books from really smart, really intelligent people in the wellness field. I really love like business development books, books on health. So like a lot of times, like if I have a client come to me with a certain issue, like I try and find a book or a piece of literature I can read on it so I can better understand that issue itself, and then find different health professionals or whatever it may be to help me with it. So I'm just constantly looking for those things, and I follow a lot of just strong leaders and business builders and people in the health community on different social media outlets. So when they post a new thing, I can see it and I can take tidbits from it. And then, like I said, just keeping myself aware of events going on in the community. And like webinars are a huge thing right now that are like the easiest way ever to get education. There's so many webinars for health and beauty and business that you can literally sit at home in your PJs and just listen to these professionals who are making like 6 figures, have X amount of clients, whatever it may be, talk on what they're doing to be successful. And so that's something is like, I think you kind of have to swallow your pride a little bit and just say like, these people know better than me, so I need to take tips from that and do that. And that's, I think the biggest challenge is like being able to acknowledge that and accept like, I'm not the best. I have ways that I can improve. And I definitely struggle with it. Like it's human nature. Everybody does. But being able to do that and just step back a little bit and just take advice from others and what people are saying. And like, there's a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I love that book. It's super great when it comes to learning how to work with people and build a network. And that I remember was a game changer for me when I started building my business, when it came to like working with people and understanding how people respond to things. And like, it's the same thing like with when you're training a dog, like dogs are going to respond better if you give them a treat rather than beat them. Like it's the same thing when you work with people, like lifting them up when they do something great and not tearing them down when they mess something up or they don't live up to your expectations, and they're going to respond 10 times better every time you lift them up rather than just constantly pointing out every time they do something bad. And with my clients too, like I'm a big advocate for like you're human. It's okay. Like you don't have to be perfect. You don't always have to eat perfect. You're going to sometimes forget to take your supplements. And like these are things that happen. It's not going to completely derail all of your success on it too. So there's a lot of aspects I think that have gone into like my self-teaching, but like the biggest thing is like read. Like it's really hard. I still struggle sometimes, but like listening to an audio and a podcast rather than listening to music in the car, that's a huge thing. Like it gets you constantly thinking and expanding your knowledge. And there are so many of them out there right now. It makes it so much simpler now than ever before to be able to be self-taught. Whereas like in the past, you had to go to like certain seminars and things like that to actually hear somebody. And now you can really just look up most things on your phone and be able to find it. And just as you're driving, as you're getting ready for the day, just educate.
Are you reading a book right now?
Right now, I am rereading Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be reading Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. I'm trying to buy a house next year, so I'm trying to I don't understand investing very well, and I'll totally own that. Like I'm very honest with that with my clients, but I'm like, let me send you to somebody that does, because that's just not my strong suit. So I'm trying to like understand that a little bit better, and that's something like Robert Kiyosaki does an incredible job of explaining when it comes to investing. And you know, if you have minimal financial literacy when it comes to investments, here's really the way you should go. And if you understand it a little bit more, here's the way you should go. So those are the two. And then I'm reading for wellness wise. I try and always read like one business book and one wellness book. I'm reading a book called Woman Code. And so it's all about like just a woman and like her cycle and different issues you might have based on like deficiencies and like if you have endometriosis and things like that. So I'm trying to do that because I have a lot of clients who have come to me recently who have things like endometriosis, and like she talks a little bit on lupus in there, which is a huge autoimmune issue that a lot of people have. And so I'm trying to kind of just better understand that. So when my clients come to me, I can like actually relate to and understand rather than them trying to teach me all about this condition that they have.
What is your big vision for your business?
So my goal is you walk in and there is like this really awesome, like I want Wellness 360 to be a place that people can come, my clients can come, and like they don't just come in and out. Like they can stay and hang out and have a cup of coffee and just relax for a little bit if they feel like they want to relax for a little bit. But you walk in and you have your chiropractor in one room, and you have your massage therapist, and you have your personal trainer, and you have your esthetician and your lashes, and they're all under one roof. So you know that you can just walk in and you have like your financial advisor, like all there. So you can just walk in and know that you can trust all of the people in this room and that they're all going to give you the absolute best service, and they're going to do it based on the fact that they care about you and they care about your success and your wellness, not just trying to make a sale or trying to make money for themselves. Because like I said, I think so many people, like, yeah, they'll find somebody that they love for like this one field that they need a professional for, but then they're so clueless on everything else, and they all do intertwine in like this weird web. And so I just would love to be able to have that for my clients where they can just walk in and pretty much find something for all of these different categories and be able to get the help that they need with it all under one roof. That's
an amazing vision, and you're well on your way. I mean, 3 years in, you got your first brick and mortar. You're building your network. Mm-hmm. Any other leaving points for the audience? Let me ask you this. What is if you had to give one thing for a solution to wellness, what would your solution to overall wellness be?
I think the biggest thing, I think seriously where everything starts is not even with internal, is understanding like expand your brain and just learn things and like learn leverage. Like that is my biggest thing, is once I understood leverage, it gave me the opportunity to understand so many other things when it came to wellness, because it's just such a huge component to it. And like financial wellness and physical wellness and the outward wellness, like and internal, like they all blend so much so together. So don't just focus on any one thing, because then you're always going to be lagging behind in these other departments and you're never going to be like really living your optimal life. So just self-educate, but then also like take help when you can get help is such a huge thing. And I think nobody wants to do it, but it's super important.
Can you real quick just like define what you mean by leverage?
So leverage is like understanding. So having leverage is being able to just get up and go on a trip when you want to get up and go on a trip, or your family's in crisis and you can get up and leave because like you've built leverage in that way when it comes to financially. And then, you know, wellness wise, just having the leverage of like there's a difference between like, you know, just being well and having that baseline wellness and actually living like your optimal health wise. And so understanding that and being able to utilize that again to just like leverage yourself so you have the best life possible for you and your full, like literally 360 of wellness is super huge and important.
Well, we have a wealth of knowledge here with Sydney, and we appreciate you coming on. How can the listeners get connected with you and learn more from you and about your business?
I have a website, wellness360solutions.com. You can go on there. You can see all the products, all the services, book an appointment. There's also an Instagram at wellness360 with 3 underscores after it. And then Facebook is at wellness360 solutions as well. So they're all there and available. And then I do have the brick and mortar location in Darboy, right in the strip next to Crunch, the gym. So that's there as well. But the biggest way is just always just going online, booking an appointment with me, giving me a call. My phone number's on all of those as well. And then setting up an appointment so we can make sure that we figure out best. And the biggest thing is like understanding you don't need to even know what you need. If you just say like, I know I just want to be better, like in whatever this category is, we can just figure it out and we can go from there. You don't have to have an exact issue. We can just go from there and spitball.
Great stuff. Hey, everybody listening, reach out, give her a like, follow whatever it is on social media, check out what she does and the great things she's bringing to the community. And thank you for listening. Tune in next time.